This is NCC Unplugged.
Hey everyone, I want to thank you once again for joining us for another episode of NCC Unplugged. My name is Matt Mastroianni, and I'm the Media and Tech Director here at the church. And today we're going to be diving into an episode looking at the men's ministry here, which is called The Forge. And before we start talking about that, I want to introduce our guests from The Forge. We have Rich Seman, who is also an elder here at the church. So, Rich, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for inviting us, Matt.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And then we have, known as The View, Nate Stonecypher. Nate, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you.
Doing
Thank you for
great.
having
Yeah,
us.
yeah. Thanks. Appreciate you guys agreeing to come on. Sometimes you ask people to come on the podcast and they get a little bit nervous and talking with a microphone shoved in your face. So yeah.
Appreciate you asking.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I definitely think this is something that is really good to talk about for the church at large, not just the men, but see how it can impact men's lives and then hopefully their families and beyond. So today, as we talk about the Forge, I guess, Rich, you would probably be one of the best ones to talk about the origins of the Forge, kind of where it came from, how it was birthed, what the name means, or where that came from.
Yeah, sure. I would say about 10 years ago-ish, somewhere in that range.
Okay.
Yeah, we'd been trying to start men's ministry. I think God's laid it on my heart that I want to do it. Pulling it off is a different thing. We pray for help. But I'd say a group of us got together and we said, what should we do? And then at one point in the meeting, we're like, well, we got to have a name. What's a neat name? And we kind of all were like, oh, I think the Forge is great because there's all kinds of symbolism there.
Sure.
In terms of God working on men. And then the obvious verse, Proverbs, about how iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. So that just popped right out. And
Sure.
that was great. So that's the origin of the name, The Forge. And then, working with Scott Schmidt at the time, the associate minister, we put some stuff together and we were trying to, do something about once a month. But it gets kind of busy and hard. And, we weren't real organized. We didn't get a bunch of volunteers involved. So it's just kind of hard to keep it going. But even Neil Laraway used to be involved. I don't know if you knew him, but so we kind of had fun, but it was just kind of difficult to keep it going. And I think we want to make sure that we get multi-generational stuff like that. So basically learning along the way. It's still something that God's placed on my heart, but that's kind of the history, at least that I've been involved. We did breakfasts were kind of our big thing at the time, and doing some other activities.
Yeah, I think I was involved with a few of the breakfasts.
Yeah.
I did a devotion. I got to talk about professional wrestling and church. So anytime you can meld those two together, I mean, it's a win in my book.
And you made our wonderful logo.
Oh, yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I remember going back to the origins and the start of it, too. I remember having a meeting with a group of guys at a Panera Bread where we were kind of kicking around the idea. And I think at one point, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but at one point, maybe whenever we tried to start it up again, it was going to be a group of guys that would be available to help those in need at the church. That was kind of, is that the right thing that I'm thinking of? Or
and
is
there
that
too.
different?
Yeah, we did manage to put some neat stuff together. I think we did it kind of ad hoc where we would say, okay, the staff, somebody would come to the staff or they'd find out about a physical need typically for somebody at the church. And we had a good email list of men who said, hey, just shoot me an email if I'm willing to help. And if I can help, we'll do it. So, I'd say once every month or two, the staff would come to us with a request and send out the email. And there were a few times I was like, I don't know if we're going to pull this off, but God's very faithful. I mean, every time we were able to help everybody who came to us, which was awesome. Yeah,
and it was neat to see a group of guys, each with our individual skills and abilities that God's blessed us with the talents. Because I remember some needs would come through that like I saw and I was like, well, I definitely can't do that. But then there would be somebody that would be able to help out for sure.
Yeah, it was great. We did a lot of moving, helped a lot of people move.
Yeah.
We fixed ceilings, we dug trenches, all kinds of stuff. It was just, It was great. Yeah,
Right.
that was awesome, and we still do it. It's just ironically we haven't had as much need at the moment, but still out there.
Yeah. Too bad we don't get a request for digging trenches now that Nate's on board. I mean,
Right.
he seems like he could be the one to just.
We may after this.
Yeah. We're going to see the request go through the roof for trench digging. So, Nate, to bring it over to you, kind of how did you get involved? Kind of what's your background been like with the men's ministry and just Norman in general as well, the church?
So I started coming here in 2012.
Okay.
Joining the youth group. It was, and I would come to Sunday service with my parents sometimes, and but the youth group was my really big. I looked forward to it all the time. Ryan Atchison, who is a member here that brought me the first time, he's still one of my best friends in the entire world. So just through the years of doing things with the youth group and making friends and starting to come to service and just looking for other ways to kind of be I don't know if it's an inspiration or if, to help other people along like I was helped. And Rich came to me one Sunday talking about the Forge and needing some more help with it and asked if I wanted to join and help them plan things and get this conference going. And I thought that it was just a wonderful thing that they were trying to get kind of a men's group started again, because I know that he had said that the interest and the amount of people they were able to get the past couple years hasn't been, exceeding.
Right.
And so I think we have a really great group. Us and very diverse ages and backgrounds, and I think that it's just a very important group to have, not to get too into issues out there or anything, but I think it's really important these days for us to know what a godly man is in today's world, because I think the role of men in families and society in general is kind of being downplayed a lot. And so I think that it's important to know how to be a godly Christian man.
Right.
Not that you can ever achieve perfection or anything, but we can try.
Yeah, it gives you something to work for and strive for sure.
Yeah. So it seems like men here are receptive to it so far.
Yeah.
So we're very excited about that and looking to see where it goes from here.
Good.
So.
Good. Excellent.
Really excited Nate was willing to join us. That was I think one of the downfalls in the past is we never really had that understanding that we needed more guys in the leadership and to get a good diverse mix in the generations.
Yeah.
So in case people don't know, there's a group of 6 of us now. We have Ed Boone is involved, Rob Newton, Aaron Newton, Patrick Antonucci, and Nate and myself.
Right.
And we're open to more. So if anybody has a real heart and a passion for it, tell them to come see us.
Yeah, for sure. So given that group of six leaders of the Forge, I mean, it's spanning the age ranges of early 20s to 60s.
Too much later.
Yeah, too much later.
Gray.
I was thinking how I should say that, but
I say we have young people and wise people.
And I like that. I'm sure the wise people would appreciate that.
Yeah. And it has been awesome to see what that mix brings to the leadership group to really help us reach out to people.
Right.
Instead of getting the 53-year-old man version of what I like, and everything else, or how I see the world, we get a really good mix.
It's also great because I think, like, even when we're talking about what we're going to do to announce things like the text video we had this morning, like, we'll kind of ask each other, like, they'll be like, what do kind of like young people sound like? What do they talk like?
Right.
Or, if you were coming to this conference, what would you be interested in? Would you want a like a wristband or a T-shirt or a hat, and then we can ask them questions about things that we might not be as familiar with. And so I think it's great that we have the group that we do. And Patrick Antonucci he's new to the church, and he joined right after I did, and he's already been, I mean, such a big blessing.
Oh, great.
To us. I mean, just the ideas he brings and the enthusiasm is fantastic. I think he came in the first day and basically kind of came up with our whole slogan.
The short mission. Yeah, he just kind of he threw something out there, and we're like, "Oh, that's awesome."
Okay.
It was
Write
like
that
the
down.
first thing he said, and we're like, "Did you just come up with that?" He's like, "Yeah."
Yeah,
That's great.
And then the da moment is like, okay, we're worried about doing this in the leadership. And we're like, this is what men need, right? We need young men that are interacting with older men all through the spectrum.
Yeah,
and that's what we want to provide.
Exactly.
That's part of it.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. So we talked specifically about the Forge Men's Group here at Norwin. I want to kind of backtrack a little bit, or I know, Rich, we've talked before we started recording about some statistics and everything on why it is so important for there to be a men's group even in church. And, sometimes I feel like the guys, I don't necessarily know if overlooked is the right word or just assumed that there is no interest from men. And, regardless of what church you attend or whatever, it always seems like there's the women's groups, which is awesome. I mean, obviously they need their own thing too, but yeah, the men's side of things is kind of lacking. So Rich, kind of some of the statistics that you found in preparing, if you wouldn't mind sharing some of that with us.
Yeah. They're
eye-opening.
They're a bit surprising. Eye-opening. Just the statistics now are, they said the average church is 60+% women and 39% men. And then they said our culture and the general kind of decline of the church, this is across all, Protestant, Catholic, etc. They said if you look for churches that are growing, the growing churches in today's culture are much closer to 50% men and women. And it's, so you can argue scripturally and everything else, but it's like, hey, if you look at churches that are growing, there's a lot more men there, and then when you pray about it, you look at it, you're like, okay, I can understand why. Yeah. If you're truly seeking a godly man, they're leading your church. They're drawing in other men, other families. And then like a quote here from David Morrow, he writes some other things that maybe a little rougher, but he says, if you transform men, you transform the family, the community, and the society. Draw men to church, and you often get the family in the bargain. Yeah, and there's a whole lot out there, statistics of, when dad attends the church, how much the children attend. Yep. And then you can even find some on, what percentage of children continue to attend church once they grow out of the household and those kind of things. So it's scary. Yeah. But the positive thing is awesome. It's like, okay, that's the impetus why we want to have a thriving men's group, right? I mean, we want God to be praised. We want men to come to God. And it seems to be, one of the bigger factors in creating a vibrant community.
Yeah, sure. No. And in preparation too, we were looking, and this isn't to pat ourselves on the back or anything, but this is just strictly numbers. He said churches that are closer to 50-50 men and women. I was doing some investigating on our numbers, and we're right around, what did I say, 55% and 45%. And I mean, you this Sunday especially, like you take a look at our church, like new people coming, growing, we're running out of room, we're starting a third service, like, it's active leadership in different groups is just, it's very encouraging to see. And I think too, for men, for the longest time as well, we're just kind of meant to, or expected to just like, go to work, take care of your family, and that's it. And not necessarily address like the issues that guys deal with on a day-to-day basis. And that can feel isolating and everything. And just knowing that there's other guys out there going through the same thing across wide age range can be encouraging, and just, building each other up and everything as well.
Yeah. And I think today's culture kind of just leaves the man behind.
Yeah.
It's a sad part, It's like, sure, men have had issues, and just like everybody else, and men can do better and everything else, but our culture tends to have just kind of thrown them out, as opposed to let's improve it.
Right.
And that's where we want to get. We want to make ourselves godly men that God wants. Yeah. That our culture should have no problem with.
Right.
And see that, these are good people.
Yeah, absolutely. And and not to go down this whole rabbit trail, but you look in the media and everything too. Back in the olden days, the TV shows that were out there and everything, and the men in these TV shows were rough, rugged, like what you would call manly men, and the fathers, the old shows like Leave It to Beaver and stuff, and they were respected. Andy Griffiths, I enjoy watching that. Respected dads and guys in the community that people would go to, but then as you go through the years, they're doofless, guys that don't do anything right, can't lead their family, and it's just kind of discouraging to see that. And hopefully, with the Forge here locally at Norwin, we can kind of start changing that tide for sure. So,
I was born in 97.
Okay.
So,
oh my.
Yeah. So it was, I was catching like the tail end of watching things like, and I don't know why, but the first show that comes to mind is Family Matters with like Steve Urkel.
Yeah.
And I was like, I feel like a manly man should be like Carl Winslow, basically.
Yeah.
Because like those were just the ones that like you're kind of like drawn to as like a father figure, or not Doctor, Uncle Phil.
Yes.
From
Fresh Prince.
Fresh Prince.
Yes. Yeah.
Like the ones that were kind of tough but loving,
right,
and kind of were able to lead their family and kind of do what needed to be done in a godly kind of manner.
Yeah.
And but I see your point definitely. Like as like I was a kid and new shows were coming out on, Disney or Nickelodeon or whatever, the dads could be like kind of just always messing up or and stuff like that. So that definitely is something to think about, because it kind of gives society an idea of how to picture kind of men and dads and things like that.
Yeah. And not to go on a deep dive on TV shows, but the one that like really stuck out to me, and I loved the show, I watched it all the time, was Home Improvement with Tim Allen. Like super funny guy. It's a super funny show and stuff. But like everything he did as a dad or like in his work life, he was messing up left and right. Yeah. And I remember, I was born in 82, so I'm a little bit older than you, but like I remember thinking back then, even not realizing what I was thinking about and how they were portraying dads, I was like, that's, I don't necessarily know if that's right or how they should be portraying dads.
Yeah. It's tough because it's fun, right? It's fun. But then when you say, okay, that's just what all men are like, you've taken it too far.
Yeah.
And the flip side, not to make it too serious, but it's like when you take men that have no God in their life and you give them power, you get all kinds of bad stuff, right? And I think that's what our world's reacting to is, men behaving poorly in places of power when they have no godly influence.
Right.
And so our world has seen that and been stung by it. And so they're rejecting everything.
Right.
And I think that's one of our goals, is trying to create the men's ministry, is to show now a man who's influenced by God and following him, living and loving as Jesus did, like we were told to, is something that's appealing to people.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So, something that's attainable, like you said before, never going to get perfect at it, but
it's hard. It's hard for everybody to live. It's hard to be a man in this world and everything else, but we want to do it together, and God can help us grow and improve.
Right, exactly. So kind of, you brought it up a few times. You've mentioned it, the men's conference that we have coming up. Nate, if you want to talk a little bit about that, what it is, what the idea or thought behind it was, and just how it got started and what we have to look forward to.
Yeah, so it's called the Better Man Conference, and it's going to be Saturday, October 5th. We're going to have a free breakfast for men at 7:30, and registration's going to be at 8:20 in case
people who want to sleep in.
Or can't make it to breakfast or whatever. But again, the breakfast is free, so I'll be there.
Is Jean preparing the breakfast?
Yes, we signed her up.
Okay.
Right away. Yeah.
So if you're listening and you're not sure if you want to come, the fact that Miss Jean Hook is going to be preparing the breakfast.
And her team of ladies.
And her
awesome.
team, yeah. Show up just for that even. But go ahead.
But we're going to there's going to be some worship music from Jonathan and a couple other people. I don't think we're going to have a full band or anything. It's going to be kind of stripped back a little bit. Jeff and Joshua and Garrett.
Jonathan.
I'm sorry, Jeff and Jonathan and Garrett.
Yeah. We got Joshua in our pocket for next time.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right. Yeah.
So those three are gonna they're gonna speak for us.
And just real quick too, Jeff is our main preaching minister here at the church. Jonathan is the youth minister.
Yes.
And then did you say Garrett as well? Yeah. So Garrett is our outreach minister, missions minister. Is that outreach?
Outreach and
small groups.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Minister. So those three from the church are going to be speaking.
Yeah. And I just think it's going to be great. And we're going to break into some small groups as well. That we have some volunteers for that are going to help lead those. And I think I'm most excited about those because I've always gotten the most out of small groups and talking to other men and kind of just answering the same questions and how we can all see things in kind of a different way and actually have a discussion. So I'm very excited about that. I think we're hoping to wrap it up at about 12, so it won't be all of Saturday or anything, but sure. I think it'll start your day off pretty great.
Yeah. And I think we want the focus to, better man. This is our first one. What we're talking about, it's like, how do we be a better man? Right. And it's so, Jonathan's going to talk about what culture today says a man is. And we've asked Garrett to talk about what does God say a man is. And then Jeff's lined up to talk about now, what do you do about it?
Okay.
And of course, sing.
Yeah. He's going to sing
possibly
arms wide open by Creed. So I think that was a different minister. That was
that's why we need to breathe. His thing. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
I don't know if we can get. I don't know. Maybe if we get 50 signups, we can get Terry to come and sing arms wide open.
Yeah, but
he might do it with no people here.
Yeah, he may. I could see that happening.
But we'll have a good time. We got Aaron lined up to do a little bit of fun and games at the beginning too.
Okay,
I just think it's going to be a wonderful Saturday morning. A great way to kick off your weekend with some other Christian men. And the thing that I get out of those things a lot too is we did a hike about a month or two ago.
Okay.
And there were so many men in the church that I had never even met personally.
Right.
Like I'd seen around, but you have two services and we have a lot of people. So you don't always get to meet everybody, but now there's a lot more people that I can say hello to when I come in and, start conversations with. And so I think that these events make that, a possibility.
Yeah.
I mean, you come and meet somebody and they could end up being one of your best friends, and the more Christian friends you have, the better.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I've learned that over the years for sure.
Yeah. And I know, like, me and you personally, like, we're relatively new to being introduced to each other and everything. Yeah. And, it's because of the Forge that we got to start to know each other as well. So, looking forward to it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's great. I've been still meeting new people too.
Yeah.
And the group of leadership's been fun. Great people.
Good.
Great guys. And, the hike's great.
Right.
And I know we didn't say it this morning, but, we're reaching out to, high school men too.
Sure.
We've kind of said 14 plus because it's like, you're dealing with this as a guy from the time you're in middle school.
Right. Yeah.
Right? So,
Yeah.
And that's when a lot of I think that age too is when a lot of worldly temptations start to
come in.
Yeah. And that's a very important age where you're trying to discover who you are as a person. And, me personally, just saying that was a great time to have where you need leadership and you need Christian leadership because, some people, unfortunately, some kids don't have, a dad or anything like that could either, one, be not there at all, or two, is not a good example of that. And so I was fortunate enough I have two parents that are fantastic, but I've had quite a few people and men in this church specifically that have in ways become kind of like second fathers that I can run things by and, have had long talks and gotten a lot of advice. And so that age group is crucial as well.
Yeah. I just picture in my mind, you got young high school guy sitting in a group with Frank Coates.
Yeah.
Talking.
Right.
Just that experience,
the wisdom and
all across the spectrum would be awesome. And that's what we want to see. That's what we want to grow. Yeah. I know we're just getting started. So, we'll
see where God takes it in the future and what we can do with it and everything. So if you're listening, and maybe Rich and Nate, you can speak to this too. We announced it this morning, and I personally had conversations with a few guys that were just like in the text video we did, like, I'm not really, not really sure if I'm cut out for that, or it's not really my thing. What would be your, in the business world, your elevator pitch to somebody to make sure they want to go? We know there's going to be free breakfast from Jean Hook and her crew, so that's going to be great. But on a more serious level, like what would your words of encouragement be for them?
Well, I would say that there's really, it doesn't cost anything. There's no, pressure to speak in front of anybody or anything like that. This is very much trying to introduce people to each other and what a Christian man should be, and basically just have conversations. Nobody's speaking at anybody or anything like that. And there's a lot of new people, I think, that are going to be coming. And so you certainly will not be alone.
Right.
And, these are some of the nicest people in the world that have signed up to come already. So I just think that if it was something that you can come to and you decide not to, I think it's something that would be kind of a big regret.
Yeah. It's not threatening. I know it's tough because even me as a man, it's like somebody goes, "Hey, let's get together and we're going to share our feelings and talk about what," and it's like, okay.
Yeah.
It's like, no.
Yep.
I mean, even where I'm at, I feel like I'm much more open to that kind of stuff, but that's, and that's not what we're going to do. We're not going to, it's not going to be threatening or anything else, but it's like we all feel like, hey, I could do better. And even little steps, big steps, whatever. Right. And overcoming I have to do this by myself. Right.
Yeah.
So, I think we're going to see that we share a lot in common.
Yeah.
All our struggles.
And, a lot of it, like we were saying before, is kind of like a church service. Like we're going to have worship music, and we're going to have those three, wonderful speakers. And it's just kind of catered to this group, though, of men and how to be a godly man in today's world. So the only talking that really would happen is in the small groups, and I think that's where everybody usually kind of likes to say something, or if you don't, you at least can. You don't have to say anything, and you can just think about what other people have brought up that might get you to think about something in a different way. But I think that makes it kind of less threatening, as it kind of like is a service, just kind of like catered to men,
right?
And things that we as men need to hear and think about.
And I think this is an opportunity too for men to let us know, right? What is church to them? I think part of the problem, just in general, I don't necessarily think it's here, but a lot of men are like, "Oh, church, that's for the women and the kids and everything else," and it's a little bit of a failure on the church's part. It's like, what is a church to a man? What do you expect? We'll probably have a survey like, "Hey, what'd you get out of this? What would you like to see? What do you really want to talk about?"
Yeah.
So it's an opportunity also for them to give input to us.
Oh yeah,
know what they want to see.
It's it's our first one.
Yeah.
So That's definitely something afterwards we're going to ask, is there anything more that you would have liked, or what would have helped you enjoy this experience a little more, if anything? You want to see more of this, less of this, something that we might not even have thought of. And then for the next time that we want to do it, we'll have that kind of ready.
Yeah.
So,
and then all the other things we're doing, the activities and everything else as well, there's an opportunity to ease into it a little easier too. It's like, we're still going to talk about God and how, we can be better at these activities, but, we go hiking, we're going to go biking, we're going to try to get curling. And, so it's go have fun with other men.
Right.
I know in my life, I've gotten the closest to other guys, not by sitting on a couch like we are, but we're doing something.
Yeah.
We're off doing something together. Guys I went and played softball with, and that, you can talk when you're not staring at each other. Kind of thing.
Yeah. That's,
we want to create that.
Yeah. I know today for me, like after church, a group of us went and played disc golf. We got rained on. We had fun. We were running around like little kids in the rain, like trying to hide under trees. It just the bond, the community. We weren't necessarily talking about God things all the time while we were there, but just being there for one another and, getting to be better friends with each other and just being around other guys. We brought our kids with us, so it's kind of neat to interact and see that.
It builds up your faith, even if you're not, you don't have to be speaking about God all the time, every second that you're together, but knowing that you're with those like-minded people and you're all after the same goal and you're trying to do the same things is just that, spending a couple hours hanging out like you would with any other friends, but with those friends is, I feel like I always get a lot more out of that.
Yeah. And I know for me, when I'm hanging out with guys from church, that we all have that common bond and that unity of God, I can almost relax more because I know we have that common interest, and I know, for the most part, how the conversation's going to go, and we can just like be ourselves in front of each other, and hopefully inspire one another. And again, just hang out and get that good friend group that every guy needs too. Like, we can't do this alone in this world.
And I think maybe sometimes there's hesitation because it's like, well, I'll be around all those church guys, I won't be able to be myself. If they knew who I was, and that's the thing we want to get rid of. It's like we want this to be a place where you can be yourself.
Right.
You don't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
We'll all work on it together.
Yeah.
Not one person here is.
Nope.
Yeah.
Said, I forget the exact quote, but it was something like, I don't go to church because I am perfect. I go because I'm not perfect. And, we don't need Jesus in our lives because we're perfect. Because if we were, we wouldn't need Jesus. But, we need Jesus in our lives to fill that gap where we are not perfect, no matter how hard we try to obtain that. We never will, like we've talked about several times. But and just building each other up and being that iron to sharpen each other as well.
Yeah, the one perfect man we all killed.
Yeah. Think about that.
Yeah.
Like in the history of things, think about that for a second. I've never like heard that before. That's deep.
That's true.
Yeah, and that
you can come to the Better Man Conference after hearing that, right?
Yeah,
come on.
Yeah, the one perfect man there was, we killed. Yeah,
it's tough,
wow.
But
I
mean, so far it's been a great ride. You know,
Yeah.
I was away and we struggled to kind of never really got it off the ground before, but you know, now it's kind of fun to say we're going to relight the forge.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
There might even be weapons at the
Oh my!
Forge weapons. You never know.
Yeah, we talked about. We are working on an anvil.
Oh, very nice.
We'll keep that keep that as a teaser for now.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, it'll be NCC Forged in Fire. We'll have our own competition where we build our own knives and swords and everything.
We had the meeting. I said they sell like real cheap machetes at Walmart. I said everybody that comes, you get a free machete on the way out.
Oh yeah,
definitely.
Yeah,
but there's just so much analogy and metaphor to the forge that it's like it's just begging for a lesson. I'm sure somebody's done something out there we can find, but
sure,
we could even do a small group with it sometime.
Absolutely. No, that's great. So in closing, as we wrap up, I want to thank you both, Rich and Nate, for joining us today on NCC Unplugged. We do have a page on our website for the Forge. It's under the Connect tab. And just go on norwinchristianchurch.com, hit Connect, and then hit the Forge button. It has a list of information, just general information about the Forge, who we are, what our goal is, why we exist. And then it also has the information on the Better Man Conference that's coming up on October 5th and a way to sign up and register for that. And then if you also get the emails through the church, there's sign-up links through those as well. So definitely opportunities and chances out there for sure. And we want to see if we can pack the house a little bit for the first ever Forge conference for Norwin Christian Church.
We want to see you, whoever's listening.
Yes.
We want to see you.
Yeah, come.
Tell your husband, your son, your nephew, your uncle, anybody.
Yeah, yeah. Come on, come on.
Yeah.
And the one last statistic is less than 10% of churches out there are able to maintain a vibrant men's ministry. So come make ours a success.
Yeah.
Come make, we want God to make it a success. Come be a part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. We can't do it without you. It's
Free breakfast.
Free breakfast. Thanks, Nate. Way to wrap it up.
Yeah.
So again, I want to thank you both for joining us on NCC Unplugged. Yeah, absolutely. It was a great conversation. Looking forward to seeing what God can do with the men here at Norwin Christian Church, and hopefully we can take what we learn and apply it to our lives, that then we can go out and help others apply it to their lives and be that good role model or a good friend that everybody needs right now, especially in this world. So I want to thank you all for once again listening to NCC Unplugged. You can like us and follow us on Spotify and Podbean and iHeartRadio. Pretty much anywhere you listen to a podcast, just search for NCC Unplugged. You can check out our website, norwinchristianchurch.com, for all the information of our upcoming services. We do have a very exciting Thursday service that's going to be starting on September 5th at 7 o'clock. That's going to be very similar to what our Sunday services are as well. So it's a third service during the week to maybe help you get recharged and energized and be able to have God in your life once again. And again, I want to thank you for joining us, and thanks for listening.
Thank you for tuning into NCC Unplugged. If you've enjoyed our podcast, please be sure to rate and review it and share it with your friends and family. If you are interested in learning more about Norwin Christian Church, visit our website at norwinchristianchurch.com. We also invite you to join us at NCC for one of our 3 services. Sundays at 8:45 and 10:30 a.m., and Thursdays, starting September 5th, at 7 p.m. We have engaging classes for all ages, ensuring there is something meaningful for everyone in our church community. Thanks once again for listening, and we hope you have a great week.